Bob was a trucker for 20 years. He drove a big heavy truck, an 18-wheeler with a long trailer. The truck was red and strong. It could carry 50 tons of cargo. Bob liked the quiet nights on the long highway. He felt safe in the high cab. The engine made a low rumble that helped him stay awake. One cold night in winter, Bob picked up a special load in a small town. The boss said, "Do not open the trailer. Just drive it to the city 500 miles away. No stops." Bob thought it was strange, but he needed the money. He locked the doors, checked the tires, and started the engine. The heavy truck rolled out onto the dark road. The first 2 hours were normal. Bob drank coffee and listened to the radio. Then, at midnight, he heard a sound. Knock, knock. It came from the trailer behind him. Bob looked in his big side mirrors. Nothing there. Just black road and his own red lights. Probably the load shifting, he said to himself. He kept driving. Knock, knock, knock. The sound came again, louder. Bob slowed the truck a little. The highway was empty. No other cars. No lights. The knocks stopped. Bob felt a small chill in his back. He turned up the heater in the cab. At 1 in the morning, the knocks started again. This time they were fast. Bang, bang, bang. Bob grabbed his CB radio. "This is Big Red. Anyone out there? I got weird knocks in my trailer." A voice came back, crackly. "Big Red, this is Old Timer. What kind of load you hauling?" Boss said, "Don't ask," Bob answered. Old Timer laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. "Some loads ain't meant to be hauled. Pull over and check. But lock your cab door first." Bob did not want to stop. The road was too empty, but the bangs got harder. It sounded like fists hitting metal from inside the trailer. Bob found a wide spot on the side of the road. He parked the heavy truck. The brakes hissed loud. He took his flashlight and his gun from under the seat. His hands shook a little. He walked to the back of the trailer. The night air was freezing. His breath made white clouds. The trailer doors were still locked. No one could be inside. Bob put his ear to the cold metal. Silence. Then, a whisper. A soft voice said, "Let me out." Bob jumped back. His heart beat fast. He ran to the cab, locked the door, and drove away fast. The heavy truck roared. The whispers followed him. They came through the walls now. "Bob, you left us here. How did it know his name?" Bob never told the boss his real name on the paperwork. He drove faster. The road curved through dark woods. The knocks turned into scratches. Long, slow scratches like nails on metal. At 2 in the morning, the radio changed. No music, just a woman's voice. "Bob, remember the accident in 2018? Bob froze. In 2018, he had crashed his old truck. He hit a car. 2 people died. He never told anyone. The insurance paid and said it was not his fault. But Bob knew the truth. He had fallen asleep at the wheel. The voice said, "They are angry, Bob. They are in the trailer. They want you to feel what they felt." The truck started to shake. The steering wheel turned by itself. Bob fought it. His arms hurt. The heavy truck swerved left, then right. Headlights from nowhere appeared behind him. But when he looked in the mirror, nothing was there. Bob screamed, "Stop!" The whispers laughed. The trailer door lock clicked open by itself. Bob heard the metal creak. He could not see it, but he knew the door was swinging in the wind. Something was climbing out. The cab lights flickered. Bob looked at the passenger seat. A wet hand print appeared on the seat. Then another. The air smelled like blood and dirt. Bob pressed the gas pedal hard. The big engine screamed. The truck flew down the highway at 90 miles an hour. A face appeared in the rearview mirror. Pale, broken, eyes black. It was the man from the 2018 crash. The face smiled with broken teeth. "You left us to die," it said. The face moved closer in the mirror. Bob could feel cold breath on his neck. Bob grabbed the gun and shot at the mirror. Glass exploded. The face was gone, but now the passenger seat had a person sitting there. A woman with a crushed head. She turned slowly. "Drive us home, Bob." Bob cried. The truck would not stop. The brakes were sore. The heavy truck kept going by itself. Trees on the side of the road looked like hands reaching out. The whispers became screams. Dozens of voices. All the people Bob had hurt in his life. Small accidents he forgot. Lies he told. The road ended at a bridge. The truck was heading straight for the edge. Bob fought the wheel with all his strength. His muscles burned. The dead woman put her hand on his arm. Her fingers were ice. "Join us," she said. At the last second, Bob turned the wheel hard. The heavy truck tipped. Tires screamed. The trailer swung. The load inside crashed around. Bob heard bodies hitting the walls. Real bodies. The truck stopped on the grass beside the bridge. Bob opened the door and ran. He did not look back. Behind him, the trailer door was wide open. Black shapes crawled out. They were coming for him. Bob ran into the woods. He never drove a truck again. But sometimes, late at night, he still hears knocks on his bedroom door. And the whispers say his name. Story 2. Mike drove the same heavy truck every week. It was black, with chrome wheels that shined like knives. The cab was high and comfortable. He hauled steel pipes from one state to another. Long trips, lots of night driving. Mike loved it. He had a wife and a little girl at home. He always called them before he slept. One rainy night, Mike was on a straight highway through empty fields. Rain hit the windshield hard. The wipers could not keep up. His headlights cut through the water like tunnels. At 11 o'clock, he saw lights in his mirror. 2 white headlights, far back. Another truck. Normal. But the light stayed exactly the same distance. Mike slowed down. The lights slowed down. Mike sped up to 70. The lights sped up. He tried the CB. "This is steel hauler." "Truck behind me, you okay?" No answer. Just static. The rain got worse. Thunder shook the cab. Mike felt tired, but the lights kept following. At midnight, Mike stopped at a rest area. He needed coffee. The heavy truck parked under a tall light. He looked back. No other truck. The highway was empty. He laughed at himself. Just my eyes playing tricks. He got back in the cab and started again. 5 minutes later, the lights were back. Closer now. Mike could see the truck behind him was the same as his own. Same black color. Same chrome. Same size. But no driver visible in the cab. Mike's hands got cold. He drove faster. The heavy truck roared through the rain. The following truck matched every move. Mike turned on his bright lights. The other truck turned on bright lights too. They looked exactly like his. The radio turned on by itself. A voice that sounded like Mike's own voice said, "You can't run forever." Mike screamed and turned the radio off. The voice kept talking from the speakers. "I am you. From the night you left the family to die." Mike's heart stopped for a second. 10 years ago, before he was married, he had drunk too much and crashed his car. He left the scene. A family of 3 died. He never told anyone. The police said hit and run, never found the driver. The following truck got closer. Mike could see the license plate now. It was his own plate. The same numbers, the same dent on the front bumper from last month. Mike pushed the gas to the floor. The heavy 18-wheeler shook. Pipes in the trailer clanged loud. The following truck stayed right on his tail. Rain made the road slippery. Mike felt the big tires slide a little. A rest stop sign appeared. Mike took the exit fast. The heavy truck leaned hard. He parked under the lights and jumped out. He hid behind a trash bin. The other truck followed him into the rest area. It parked right next to his. The door of the other truck opened slowly. No one stepped out, but wet footprints appeared on the ground. Footprints walking toward Mike. Mike ran back to his cab. He locked the doors. The footprints stopped at his door. The handle moved up and down. Mike started the engine. The other truck's engine started at the same time. Same sound, same rumble. Mike drove back onto the highway. The following truck was right behind again. The voice on the radio said, "I want your life. I want your family." Mike cried. He called his wife on the phone. "Baby, something is wrong. If I don't make it, tell our girl I love her." The phone cut off. The following truck bumped his trailer hard. The heavy truck shook. Mike saw a sharp curve ahead. He had an idea. He slowed down just a little. The following truck came very close. At the last second, Mike hit the brakes hard. The heavy truck skidded. The following truck could not stop. It crashed into the back of Mike's trailer. Metal screamed. Pipes flew everywhere. The crash made a huge explosion of sparks. Mike's truck spun. He fought the wheel. When the truck stopped, the other truck was gone. Only black smoke and broken pipes on the road. Mike sat shaking. He looked in the mirror. His own face looked back, but the eyes were wrong. Black, empty. The face smiled and said, "I am inside now." Mike never reached home. The next day, police found his heavy truck parked perfectly on the side of the road. The engine was running. The cab was empty, but the radio was on, playing Mike's voice talking to his wife, saying he loved her, over and over. Story tree. Tom drove the biggest truck in the company. It was a white monster with a sleeping cabin behind the seats. He hauled food across the mountains. The fog pass was the shortest way, but everyone hated it. Thick fog came every night. The road had sharp drops on both sides. One mistake and the heavy truck would fall hundreds of feet. Tom was not afraid. He had driven it 50 times. One November night, the fog was thicker than ever. It looked like milk in the headlights. Tom kept the truck at 30 miles an hour. The big tires made wet sounds on the road. At Y o'clock, the CB radio came alive. "All trucks, stay out of fog pass tonight. Ghosts again." Tom laughed. Truckers loved ghost stories. He kept going. 10 minutes later, his headlights showed something in the fog. A man standing in the middle of the road. Tom hit the brakes. The heavy truck stopped just in time. The man wore old trucker clothes from the 1970s. He waved. Tom opened the window a little. Cold fog came in. "You okay, buddy?" The man smiled. His teeth were black. "My truck broke down. Can you give me a ride to the next town?" Tom felt sorry. He unlocked the passenger door. The man climbed up. He smelled like old oil and dirt. He sat down and said nothing. Tom started driving again. The fog got thicker. The man stared straight ahead. After 5 minutes, Tom asked, "What's your name?" The man turned his head slowly. His eyes were white, no pupils. "I am the first one who died here." Tom's skin went cold. He tried to laugh. "Funny joke." The man did not laugh. He pointed ahead. "Look." Tom looked. In the fog, he saw other trucks. Old trucks. Wrecked trucks. They were parked on the side of the road. Drivers stood next to them. All of them waved. All of them had white eyes. The radio spoke by itself. Voices of dead truckers. "Turn around, Tom. The pass wants you." Tom tried to turn the wheel. It would not move. The heavy truck kept going straight, deeper into the fog. The man next to him put a cold hand on Tom's arm. "We all crashed here. Now you join us." Tom screamed and pushed the man. His hand went through the man like smoke. The ghost smiled wider. The truck started to speed up by itself. The engine roared. Tom fought the pedals. Nothing worked. The fog opened for a second. Tom saw the road ended. A broken guardrail. Nothing but black air and rocks below. The heavy truck was heading straight for it. Tom grabbed the emergency brake. It burned his hand, but the truck slowed a little. The ghost driver grabbed the wheel too. They fought. The truck swerved. One tire went off the road. The big rig tilted. Tom felt the trailer start to slide. He jumped out of the cab while the truck was still moving. He hit the wet road hard. The heavy truck kept going. It crashed through the guardrail and fell. Tom heard the long scream of metal and the final boom far below. Tom lay on the road, hurt but alive. The fog closed around him. He heard footsteps, many footsteps. The dead truckers walked out of the fog. They carried ropes and chains. They wanted to take him down the mountain with them. Tom tried to crawl away. A cold hand grabbed his leg. Another grabbed his arm. They pulled him toward the broken edge. Tom screamed for help. No one came. The next morning, searchers found Tom's heavy truck at the bottom of the pass. The cab was empty, but on the windshield, written in fog that would not go away, were the words, "Welcome to the club." No one drives the fog pass at night anymore. But sometimes, truckers still see a white monster truck in their mirrors, following them through the fog, with Tom waving from the driver's seat, eyes white and empty. Story 4. Big Jim was a veteran of the road. He drove a Peterbilt 389, a massive, heavy truck with a chrome grille that shined like a mirror. Jim had been driving for 30 years and thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. It was 2 a.m. on a lonely stretch of highway in Nebraska. The cornfields on either side of the road looked like jagged teeth under the moonlight. Jim was hauling 40,000 pounds of heavy machinery. The engine hummed a low, steady tune. Suddenly, Jim saw someone standing on the shoulder of the road. It was a tall man in a yellow raincoat. The man wasn't waving for a ride. He was just standing perfectly still. As Jim drove past, the man turned his head. He had a smile that was too wide, so wide it looked like his face was splitting open. Jim shook his head. "Just the tired eyes," he muttered. But 10 miles later, he saw the man again. Same yellow raincoat. Same terrifying grin. "How is that possible?" Jim whispered. He checked his GPS. There were no side roads. No way a man could outrun a heavy truck. Jim's heart began to hammer against his ribs. He pressed the gas pedal harder. The Peterbilt roared, the heavy load behind him swaying slightly. He just wanted to get to the next truck stop. About 5 miles later, Jim felt a cold breeze. He checked his windows. They were rolled up tight. He checked the heater. It was on full blast. Then, he heard a sound that made his blood freeze. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was coming from the sleeper cab behind his seat. Jim didn't want to look. He kept his eyes on the road, but the scratching got louder. It sounded like long fingernails dragging across the leather bed. "Who's there?" Jim shouted. His voice was shaking. He looked in the rearview mirror. In the darkness of the sleeper berth, he saw two pale white eyes reflecting the dashboard lights. Then, that wide yellow-toothed grin emerged from the shadows. The man in the raincoat was inside the truck. Jim slammed on the brakes. The heavy truck screeched, the tires smoking as the massive weight of the trailer tried to push him off the road. The truck skidded and came to a stop in a cloud of dust. Jim scrambled for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. It was jammed. He looked back. The man was crawling out of the sleeper berth. His limbs moved like a spider's, cracking and popping with every movement. "Get out!" Jim screamed. The man didn't speak. He just kept grinning. He reached out a hand. His fingers were 6 inches long and tipped with black claws. Jim grabbed a heavy metal flashlight from a side pocket and swung it with all his might. He hit the man in the head, but there was no blood. It sounded like hitting a dry piece of wood. Jim kicked the door with both feet. The lock snapped, and he tumbled out onto the gravel. He didn't look back. He ran into the cornfields, hiding between the tall stalks. He watched his truck from the shadows. The Peterbilt sat idling, its lights cutting through the dark. Then, the truck's engine revved up. The gears shifted by themselves. The heavy truck began to roll away, disappearing into the night with a grinning man behind the wheel. Jim was left alone in the dark, miles from help. Let's move to the next story. Elias was a young driver, but he loved power. He drove a Kenworth W900, a heavy hauler built for the toughest jobs. He had been hired by a mysterious company to transport a single, sealed black container. "Don't open it," the foreman had told him. "Don't stop for anyone. And if you hear noises, just turn up the radio." Elias thought it was a joke. He was hauling it through the mountains of West Virginia. The roads were curvy and dangerous, with steep drops on one side. The weight of the container was strange. On the scale, it said 50,000 pounds, but as he drove, it felt like it was getting heavier. By midnight, Elias noticed the truck was struggling. He was in a low gear, but the engine was straining. The temperature gauge was climbing into the red. "What is in this thing?" "Lead," Elias groaned. Then, the truck hit a bump, and he heard a loud thump from the trailer. It wasn't the sound of cargo shifting. It sounded like something heavy had jumped. The whole truck shook. Elias looked in his side mirror. The trailer was low. The tires were bulging as if they were about to pop under the pressure. Elias pulled over at a dark rest area. There were no other trucks there. He grabbed his heavy wrench and walked to the back of the trailer. He wanted to check the straps. When he reached the back, he saw something that made him jump. The heavy steel doors of the container were bulging outward. Something was hitting the door from the inside. Bam, bam, bam. The sound was deafening. It sounded like a wrecking ball hitting a wall. With every hit, the entire 80,000-pound truck shifted an inch on the pavement. "Is someone in there?" Elias called out. The banging stopped. A low, wet growl vibrated through the metal. Then, a thick, black liquid began to leak from under the door. It smelled like old blood and engine oil. Elias ran back to the cab. He didn't care about the contract anymore. He just wanted to unhook the trailer and leave. But as he reached the coupling, the black liquid reached his boots. It was sticky like glue. It started to climb up his legs. He screamed and pulled his feet free, losing his boots in the process. He jumped into the cab and slammed it into gear. He had to get to a bright, crowded place. As he drove down the mountain, he looked in the mirror. The black liquid was covering the entire trailer now. It looked like the truck was covered in a living skin. The weight was so heavy now that the brakes started to glow red-hot. "I can't stop," Elias cried. The truck picked up speed, flying down the mountain at 80 miles per hour. The thing in the trailer started to scream, a high-pitched, human-like scream that echoed through the cab. Elias saw a runaway truck ramp ahead. He steered the heavy Kenworth into the deep sand. The truck flipped. The trailer burst open. Elias crawled out of the broken windshield, bleeding and bruised. He looked back at the wreckage. The black container was empty. There were giant, wet footprints leading away into the dark woods. Whatever he was hauling was finally free. Let's move to the last story. Sarah was one of the few women driving heavy-duty rigs in the north. She drove a Mack Anthem, a high-tech beast of a truck. She was crossing the Canadian border during a blizzard. The wind was howling, and the snow was so thick she could barely see the end of her hood. She turned on her CB radio to talk to other drivers. "Anyone out there on the 401?" she asked. Static. Then a voice cracked through. "Sarah, watch the bridge." Sarah jumped. "How do you know my name?" The voice didn't sound human. It sounded like 1,000 whispers layered on top of each other. "The ice is thin. The water is deep. We are waiting for you, Sarah." She turned the radio off, but it turned itself back on. The volume dial spun by itself until the speakers were screaming. She tried to pull the plug, but the wires were hot to the touch. Suddenly, her headlights caught something on the road. A bridge was coming up, but sitting in the middle of the bridge was an old, rusted truck from the 1950s. It had no lights and no driver. Sarah slammed on her brakes. The Mack Anthem slid on the ice, the heavy trailer jackknifing. She managed to stop just inches from the rusted truck. She sat there, breathing hard. Her breath came out in white clouds. She looked at the old truck. It was covered in seaweed and rusted chains. It looked like it had been sitting at the bottom of the ocean for 50 years. The door of the rusted truck creaked open. A figure stepped out. It was a man wearing an old-fashioned trucker hat, but he had no skin. He was just blue, frozen muscle and bone. Water dripped from his clothes, turning to ice instantly on the road. He walked toward Sarah's Mack Anthem. Every step he took left a puddle of freezing salt water. Sarah tried to put the truck in reverse, but the gears were frozen. The frozen man reached her door. He pressed his face against the glass. His eyes were gone, just dark holes filled with freezing water. He began to tap on the glass with a heavy, rusted key. "My turn to drive," the radio whispered. The glass began to crack. Sarah remembered the emergency flare under her seat. She grabbed it, pulled the pin, and held it against the window. The bright red light and heat blinded the frozen man. He fell back, hissing like steam on a hot stove. Sarah hammered the gear shift, finally forcing it into reverse. She floored it, the heavy tires spinning and catching grip. She backed away as fast as she could. When she looked back, the bridge was empty. The rusted truck and the frozen man were gone. But when she finally reached a gas station and got out to breathe, she saw something on her door. Pressed into the frozen metal of her brand new Mack Anthem was a single, rusted key. And on her CB radio, even though it was unplugged, she could still hear the faint sound of someone drowning.